MVP, MVP, MVP. We're back on the MJT Football YouTube channel once again. We're talking about our top 5 MVP candidates as of week 5. Maybe we can revisit this once every 5 weeks or so for the rest of the year, and that'll put us, close to the end of the year at week 15, talking about the final 3 weeks and the race for the MVP award. I got my 5 ready. Tony's got his 5 ready, and we're going to go over them and talk about them. And we want you guys to drop your top 5 MVP candidates in the comment section below. Tony, you ready to talk about some MVPs?
Hell yes!
Is the list go 1, Justin Herbert, 2, Keenan Allen, 3, Thule, 4, Derwin James, 5, Joey Bosa?
Yes, that's like my personal list. Austin Eckler is still number 1 after that.
He's making a comeback in the MVP race.
That fantastic week 1 performance that he had.
But speaking of Chargers, I say that because I want to start with my number 5 in the MVP race. And it is no shit, no joking. It's Justin Herbert. I mean, Justin Herbert has been carrying the Chargers in a way, in my opinion. Yes, he's getting contributions from his guys. He's getting contributions from Keenan Allen. He's getting contributions on the defensive side of the ball in the crunch time of a few games this year. But if you look at his stat line and you look at the Chargers record, you feel like this team should be 4-0 with how Justin Herbert's playing right now. Through only 4 games, keep in mind, he just had a bye week, so he's not on the same scale as some of the other guys. The totals don't look the same, but it's still very impressive through 4 games. He's got 1,161 total yards. He's been running the ball a lot more this year. I think that totals might be a career high this year if he keeps doing what he's doing. He's on track for another 5,000 yard season, Tony, the second of his career. He has 10 total touchdowns, which puts him on track to have around 43 to 45 touchdowns by the end of the year. But the most impressive thing for me is the 71% completion percentage with how much he's throwing deep and how much he's been aggressive with the football. 106 passer rating, and more than anything, and this will blow your guys' mind, I think he has either close to, he's definitely in the top 5 in pass attempts this year. The ball's been in his hands as much as any player in the NFL this season. He has 1 turnover, Tony. 1 turnover worthy play. 0 fumbles, 1 interception on a play that probably should have been pass interference. But Justin Herbert's at 5 for me. And, that turnover to touchdown and yardage and attempt ratio is bananas. It's bananas for how well he's playing right now.
I agree. I love it. He's not my number 5. If he would have bumped in one of the Dolphins or Titans games, I would have had it. There was some opportunities at the end of the, there was opportunities there to win. They could have drove down, got a field goal, win the game. The Titans game, there's a certain point in the fourth quarter where it could have got punched in. They take a field goal. But playing outstanding. Absolutely. Chargers are probably 0-4 with even just a good quarterback in the NFL. I'm talking that 9-10 level. I don't want to say any names because people get hurt when you don't say they're the best ever to do it. My number 5, and this really pains me to say it, is Patrick Mahomes. It's one of those things where it's like, he's not, we need to not compare Patrick Mahomes to elite level Patrick Mahomes and just realize that what he's doing is very impressive. The receivers, they're still trying to figure shit out, who's going to get targets outside of Travis Kelce and playing around with it. And we've got Justin Ross and Rashee Rice and Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney and Justin Watson. One of these 5 guys is ready to go off. I kind of think it's going to be a little bit less of one guy emerging as a superstar and a little bit more Rashee Rice just playing the Juju Smith-Schuster role from last year, right? Easy stuff over the middle, beat a safety in coverage across his face for, easy plays, or Byron Murphy. Every time I watch the Vikings, Byron Murphy is getting beat by everybody. And he was really good for a minute. And now are they asking him to do too much? I don't know enough about football to really understand maybe why, but I do know that I'm watching him get cooked by people, and he got beat in this last game by Rashee Rice for a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 10 touchdowns, 4 INTs, but most importantly, it's the rushing that he's doing this year. He's on pace to have a career high in rushing, and they're just daggers, and he's just winning. And they probably should have won week 1 against the Lions if Travis Kelce's out there.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, it's in the main spots of the game, and I finally got a chance to leave Patrick Mahomes off an MVP list for probably the first time since Mahomes has been in the league. So I took that chance, Tony, and put our boy Justin Herbert in there instead. But I agree with you. He definitely deserves a shout out and mention on this list. And when it comes down to it at the end of the season, he's probably going to be in the top 5. I mean, it's a pretty safe bet with how they're playing, the way he's closing games out and keeping this team one of the best teams in the league, despite them kind of resetting a little bit, going a little bit younger. It's working out on the defensive side of the ball, especially for them. But Mahomes has allowed them to be able to kind of do – it's not a rebuild. They kind of like shifted away from the Honey Badgers of the world to younger DBs, shifting away obviously from Tyreek Hill, who wanted that big contract, to younger receivers. And they're able to do it and still contend and win freaking Super Bowls because of 15. Not as big as that, but
they're approaching that Patriots territory, Mike, and that's the sad news for all fans from the AFC is like, I don't think anybody else is even close to putting together organizational sustainability. And that's the thing that you have to have is you have to be able to, you're never in a rebuild. You're just developing the next level of people that are going to come in there and help sustain the greatness. It sucks.
It's a hate him because I ain't him type of situation here. That's why I tell Chiefs fans, like, why are you always disrespecting Mahomes? I'm like, I feel like as a rival to Mahomes and a rival to the Chiefs, or a fan of a rival team, I should say, to them, I'm actually showing them respect by hating him this much. Because I don't hate him as a person. I don't hate his hairdo, although I hate seeing him on a commercial with Troy Polamalu. I hate him because he's so fucking good. That's why I hate him. And we got to deal with him kind of like a Peyton Manning situation all over again.
Yeah, it really is kind of just that, again, not the person. It's the fact that they are going to be generationally like good.
Yeah, that QB1 documentary was real tough watch for me, but I made it through. I glued my eyes open, made sure I watched it, and also Kirk Cousins was fun to watch in that. All right, I'm gonna go to my number 4, Tony. One of Pat Mahomes' old friends. I got Tyreek Hill as my 4th. On the MVP candidate list right now. I just feel like this year and last year and the year before, basically his entire career, we're just really starting to see it now that he's doing it with Tua. Now that he's doing it, separated from what's looking like could be a dynasty in Kansas City. He's unstoppable. And he's probably the most unstoppable receiver since like Calvin Johnson. Like, yes, Devontae Adams is great. Yes, Justin Jefferson is great. Like, these guys are stoppable with good DBs and good game plans and just good play. But even if you're the best DB in the league with the best game plan ever, it feels like Tyreek Hill can still expose your secondary. And he could do it underneath. He could do it across the middle of the field without fear of getting his head taken off. And he could just do it straight up the sidelines as well. It's very impressive to watch. It's all-time level stuff. I've been on this with Tyreek Hill for years because people always used to make fun of him. He's just speed. He's not a top 5 receiver because he's just speed. The dude is running clean-ass routes without losing that speed. That, to me, is better route running than someone that runs the clean, Keenan Allen-style routes where he's doing the jump cuts and putting the head bobs in there. Tyreek Hill has been insane this year. He's got 36 catches for 651 yards, 5 touchdowns. We talk about the on-track stuff all the time. He's on track for 2,217 touchdowns. I mean, to me, that would be one of the best receiving seasons in the history of the league. And he definitely deserves an MVP mention. And there's some ridiculous guys on track for ridiculous stat lines. But if Tyreek Hill's, to me, out of all the ridiculous ones, we talk about what CMC could do, or TJ Watt, or even some of these quarterbacks, Tua, this is the most impressive to me and the most likely to actually happen.
Yeah, I think for me, the most impressive would be what TJ Watt is on pace to do, but just because it's an offensive league, and whatever, it doesn't matter.
We're going to talk about TJ, I'm sure. But
yeah, Tyreek Hill would be, we'll dive deeper into Tyreek Hill.
Doesn't Cheetahs feel like he's most likely to keep this pace up of all these guys on crazy paces?
1,000%. And just because of the understanding from the coach, what makes the offense tick.
Yeah.
Like this is what it is. And I'll talk about that more in a second. My number 4, Gerard Goff, out there in Detroit. I don't know what the stats are, but if you can overcome a history of Lions football, and I am very familiar with it. Growing up in Michigan, so many family and friends are Lions fans, and they are so excited and happy, and I'm happy for all of them, like genuinely pumped to watch what's going on. And Jared Goff just gets out there and gets the balls to the playmakers. And then this week they're having fun with the double reverse, back pass, throw down to Laporta in that game is great. But Goff is making really good decisions with the football, taking care of it for the most part this year, had his interceptionless streak snapped at a certain point, but just playing great football with really guys that like we kind of forget about. Like David Montgomery was just forgotten with the Bears. Amon-Ra St. Brown never gets talked about when you talk about the best wide receivers in the league. Josh Reynolds, like after his time with the Rams, it was just sort of an afterthought there, but he looks good. Khalif Raymond, we're going to see what's going to happen with Jameson Williams. Like it's been Hawkinson or Laporta has had success with him. I just think that he does a really good job in tandem with Ben Johnson, future head coach in this league. Like, it's fantastic to watch Jared Goff have success. It's even better to watch Lions fans really embrace this and enjoy it. Like, and they should be loving this because nothing's guaranteed for this to like carry over and like all of a sudden this is going to be a Lions division for years to come. You can't guarantee that success. They're building something that's sustainable, but I'm really happy for Jared Goff, and I had to put him in here at number 4.
I love it, Tony. I love it. Just great to see Goff getting some shout outs here. He's got the numbers. The Lions got the wins now this year to go along with those numbers. I don't have him on my list, but I could see him on the list here. And like you said, Lions fans, they deserve this. And the biggest thing for Jared Goff this year, and even last year a little bit, we started to see it. He's just not trying to do too much like he has in previous years. I mean, there's been so many times when he was, especially with the Rams, where it's like, you guys have it. It's right there. And you just tried to do too much. You tried to make this spectacular play, but Sean McVay's putting you in position to take what the defense is giving you, to give you easy throws, to set up the stuff down the field later. He's doing a lot of that with the Lions now. And that offensive line has become a weapon for them, where teams are terrified of their rushing attack. So Jared Goff's been really good off the play action, and he's going to keep doing that, I think. He's been consistent enough where you can trust Jared Goff in this Lions offense. All right, number 3, I got a quarterback also. This is going to be a little skeptical, but I have Josh Allen. And there's a few stats here that are really impressive. The thing that hurts the Josh Allen argument is that he obviously dropped that game to the Jaguars. They win that game, and they're 4-1. It helps out the argument a ton. And some guys I left off the list probably feel a little bit, or their fans feel a little bit slighted. They're not on the list, but Josh Allen's here. But he's got 1,500 total yards. So he's still running the ball and throwing the ball the way he always has. He has 15 total touchdowns 5 games into the season. Just doing some quick math real quick. That's 3 touchdowns a game. On that pace, we're talking 50 touchdowns this season. That's insane. 5 interceptions, which has been key for him in the past. And I want to point out that I believe 3 of them were in one game, the first game. The rest of them, so he's been clean since that awful game almost. 1 fumble lost. But the biggest thing, something we have not seen out of Josh Allen in the past, he has a 74% completion percentage right now, Tony. That to me signals that he's being a lot more, what's the right word? He's being a lot more selective with where he's taking his risk, and he's getting these easier passes that we've seen him ignore to try and make some crazy, phenomenal Superman play in the past. He has to keep playing like this and keep the Bills winning to obviously be in the MVP race, because if they keep losing games like they did to Jacksonville, he's not going to be in this MVP race. But his numbers are just so ridiculous this year, and he's kept the turnovers and the bad plays down other than that one game.
So I would actually have Herbert above Allen if Allen was on my list. Like I would have had Herbert at 6 and Allen at 7 if I would have extended the list, because I think that he's given away 2 games. I think he gave away the Jags and the Jets, and that's 2 big L's. As to where Herbert didn't really give away the Titans or the Dolphins game. I mean, he scored enough points to win. He just didn't make that play at the end that puts him over the top, kind of in that Mahomes-esque category. Mahomes running for first down in a tight game against the Jets. Whatever you want to say about penalties and whatever else, if you want to show another video, listen to us bitching about that stuff. So I wouldn't have Josh Allen on it. I do think by the end of the year he will be there because the numbers will be crazy and the Bills will have 10, 11 wins this season. My number 3 is Tyreek Hill, who you talked about before. And the one thing you didn't talk about, which I'll add to the conversation, is what Tyreek Hill is doing for everybody else in this offense. Almost nullifying pass rush because they have to respect the speed with how much he's going back and forth, what he's doing for that also in the run game. Just the attention that he is getting from defenses because nobody wants to get smoked by Tyreek Hill. And that's the game plan, is to try and take away him. And we saw him get taken out of the game pretty nicely by Belichick, but that's what he does. But then that allowed the Dolphins to go on and win the football game. Like, that's what you need to do, is make it so that other people can be effective. I just think that even when he doesn't have the football, just being on the field, it makes it so much better for the other players in the offense to go out and have. I mean, at one point in the game, Devon Achane was averaging like 31 yards a carry or something crazy like that.
Or where it was like 20.
I think it might even been higher than that. It was like 35 yards, 37 yards a carry or something nuts at a certain point. And I think that's not all of it, but some of that has to do with teams focusing so heavily on where is Tyreek Hill, what's he doing, who's got him in cut. Oh shit, the play went this way. So I just think his real legitimate, this provable success, seeable success in the numbers, mixed in with what he's doing to defenses and driving them nuts.
And Tua. I mean, this is the Miami Dolphins, or hopefully the Miami Dolphins franchise player. So you're really giving him a boost.
When a defensive coordinator comes up with one of my favorite lines ever, he said, Wink Martindale said, "My wife called me and I said, I'm sleeping like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours and cry." And when you have kids, that to me was just absolutely hysterical, because I was like, oh shit, that is how a baby sleeps. I love how he used it. It's not the traditional sense of sleeping like it was a great joke. Fantastic.
I saw that. I almost made a video just on that. That was funny when that quote came out, where he's like, yeah, I'm not sleeping, basically. It's not going well for me this week, but we're going to try our best. Well, your best didn't stop them or didn't slow them down at all. They went crazy. Anyways, number 2 for me, Tony. And this guy, straight to the Hall of Fame when his career is done, and he has a lot of time left to play in the league. So we're going to see some epic stuff throughout his career. I'm excited for it. It's TJ Watt. And defensive players don't usually get mentions in the MVP conversation. You have to be historic to get a mention in the MVP conversation as a defensive player. He's historic right now. The dude has 7 tackles for loss for negative 55 yards. So he's pushed opposing offenses back 55 yards already this season, and we're not even a third of the way to the end of the final week. He has 8 total sacks, on track for 27 this season, which will destroy the record. And I think as long as he stays healthy, he's going to beat that record, even if he doesn't stay on track for that 27 number. But the most important thing, and what makes this guy an MVP candidate, and a guy that if you told me he is the MVP through 5 weeks so far, I'm with you on it, is what he's done as far as creating fumble. He's created 2 fumbles already. He's recovered 3 fumbles and returned 1 for a touchdown. He has 20 pressures, which is first in the NFL. By the way, he was leading the NFL in sacks as well. And something else that's pretty wild to look at, with as much work he puts in every single game. I mean, it feels like he's involved in every play all season, Tony, in all 5 games, playing 98.9% of snaps. 1 missed tackle from TJ Watt. 1. What?
He's been playing absolutely insane. The one game where he was kind of neutralized, which was odd to me, was the Texans game. Like, I really thought that was going to be a bigger game for that entire defense, and him included. But yeah, I agree. I kind of feel bad that I left him off the list. Like, when you go over all the numbers, because I'm not a huge numbers person as much as I am just sort of like the impact that you have on the game. And there's no way that the Steelers are in first place in the AFC North with that offense if TJ Watt is not on the other side of the ball. So yes,
that's what I was about to ask. I think that they're 0-4 without TJ Watt, or one win.
Yeah, they're just, it's not pretty at all for that team if he's not healthy and playing football the way he is right now. So get healthy, TJ, and make a run at, the kind of season that your brother only dreamed of. Like, really have that sort of like that thing that might inspire him to come back and be like, hey, I can't be having my brother surpass all of my numbers.
Which is nuts, Tony, because JJ Watt had some bonkers seasons with Houston. So, and I agree with you. I think TJ Watt can hit higher ceilings than that, which is like higher than Hall of Fame ceiling. What are we even talking about here with 90?
Yeah, I mean, approaching that territory where you start like really getting comfortable. Me, right, who's always very slow to crown the younger people. But at a certain point, you start reflecting on things and you go, oh yeah, I could see him in that conversation, even though it's different. But like Reggie White and Bruce Smith and those guys that played outside on the edge when I was younger, that I consider to be the best that I ever watched. As sort of that outside defensive end edge rusher type, where it's like, oh, these guys have impacts multiple times throughout a game on the final.
I see that helmet back there.
Yeah, the Micah LT thing, I've never subscribed to that whatsoever. I get frustrated when people just crown Aaron Donald and they don't even mention John Randall. It drives me nuts. It's like John Randall was a menace for a decade plus, and we just are like, nobody could ever be as good from the D tackle spot. It's like, just watch John Randall play football. It's just crazy what this man did. Anyways, I'm getting on. Although Fred Warner is getting real close to me start having some conversations about linebackers that I've watched. That man is ridiculous.
He plays like a Ray Lewis type of forward attack on the rushing game, and also plays back in coverage like a defensive back. It's insane.
Never makes a mistake. Like he's Rod Woodson. I'm like, what am I watching from this guy? He doesn't look human sometimes. What am I at? My number two is going to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts does not have a monster statistical whatever. Like he is very good statistically. I think the thing that I love the most is that they are trying to figure out how to keep Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, and Dallas Goedert happy. Like, they're literally having to go out there and saying, this is going to be a big Dallas Goedert game because we need to get him going mentally. They had AJ Brown, who was unhappy. We need to get him going. Now there was like Devonta Smith was on the sidelines last week, and he's like, hey, what's going on? Now guess what will probably happen this week with whoever the Eagles beat up, the Jets, I think it is this week. We're going to find ways to get Devonta Smith against DJ Reed's side and get him going a little bit more and allow him to have a big game. And the whole while this is going on, Jalen Hurts is still just like, let's go forward, boys. Just keep on smashing, keep on brotherly shoving me for first downs and touchdowns. And in these games that are really competitive and he just never loses focus and fights, Jalen Hurts is one of my favorite players. I've said it a million times. If I could be a football player, I'd want to be like Jalen Hurts. Like, I just want to be that calm and cool and that great of a leader and that good of a football player and just go out there and just fucking win the game and just put my shoulder down and just dominate and then turn back, open up his shoulder and just fucking dropping dimes. I love watching him play. He's great.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of his too, just because of like his story and everything that he's overcome, and he's kind of always been battling some kind of adversity in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in his personal life whether it's getting benched in college for Tua, whether it's getting drafted to a team that already had a quarterback that had like an MVP caliber season and still working his ass off to take over that position eventually. Every step of the way, Jalen Hurts has just kind of exemplified what hard work can do for you in life, in my opinion, not even just football. And I respect the hell out of that. So I'm with you on that. But he's not my number one. So I don't have him on my list, but I have him right there on the short list below. I think we have the same person at number one, Tony.
It better be. It better be Brock Peasy, my friend.
No. There's a person on that same team.
I'm just fucking with you. I'm just fucking with you. Yes. We have the same. Yeah,
49ers fans. I don't hate Brock Purdy. I just think you personally, 49ers fans, no one else, hype him up like he's the next Joe Montana. Hey, maybe he is. I'll admit when I'm wrong. But we got to get to 4 Super Bowls first before we start talking about Joe Montana. My number one, Tony, is CMC, and I think CMC is yours too, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
It's pretty easy, actually, at this point. And with all these stats we've talked about, all these players we've talked about, all these seasons we've talked about that are happening this year, I mean, multiple players are on track to break records. No one is doing what CMC is doing for the 49ers right now. And their offense is unstoppable when he's healthy and playing like this. 99 attempts, 510 yards. Simple math again, 5.1 yards per carry. Actually, a little bit more than that. 7 touchdowns as a rusher, 168 or 20 receptions, 168 yards, and 1 touchdown as a receiver. And I think it's just safe to say he's probably going to toss one eventually. At some point this season, he's going to throw a touchdown pass as well. Best player on right now, probably the best team in football. Your MVP, Christian McCaffrey. Anything to add, Tony?
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to saying the same thing about the impact, even when you don't have the ball. What he does in the play action game to be able to hold a linebacker for Brock Purdy to be able to get the ball into Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle, Jennings. Like all of these guys become that much more dynamic because they have to commit resources to coming up and stopping a creative run game, but also somebody that can run between the tackles, or he can hit you out on the side and has the speed to hit the home run. So like all of those things that he brings, I think make it easier for Brock Purdy to have success. I would like you to come around to the idea that Brock Purdy, although doesn't have the same abilities as some of these other guys, has the one ability that the other guys that are of his caliber don't have, and that is like the intelligence and the decision-making. And that can make you be successful in this league. And it's why I am always championing the guys like the Taylor Heineke's of the league. Like you can, once you get to that level, you can play. Can you be elite superstar status? No, because you don't have the same God-given abilities to make those plays that capture the imagination of young people. But if you get with the right person in the right spot, they come together, they make this marriage where it's like, it's perfect. And I do think that the 49ers can find ways to keep this shit sustained depending on the amount of money that Brock Purdy demands at a certain point.
I will admit and come around to the point, and I already came around to this before. I feel like I'm just like one of the only people standing on not an anti-Brock Purdy mountain, but more so that Brock Purdy isn't this like phenomenal quarterback for what he's doing with the 49ers. But I will say that he's giving them exactly what they need out of the QB position. He's giving them a healthy quarterback, other than the NFC Championship game where he had a freak injury. Like that injury happens like once in a blue moon. Honestly, I'd never really seen anyone like destroy their funny bone like that in the past, and especially on his throwing shoulder. But that one freak injury. Other than that, in all the regular season and all the work that he's done, he's been healthy for them, which is what they need most out of a quarterback that they haven't had in recent years. And he's consistent. They know what they're going to get out of 13 every single week. A guy that is going to hit the easy passes and, like you said, make the right decision. But I think Baker Mayfield could do that as well. And that's all I keep saying with 49ers fans is let's be careful on the top they want him in the top 7, top 5 QB rankings right now because his numbers look phenomenal because he's playing on one of the best teams in football over the last, couple of years, not just since they've had Brock Purdy. It's not like they didn't go to a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. I feel like the way Baker Mayfield's playing right now is just as commendable as Brock Purdy. Baker Mayfield's not on the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, we see it with a lot of these quarterbacks where like Jared Goff doesn't have the greatest arm, right? But the being with really smart play callers. He went from Sean McVay and now Ben Johnson looks like he's finding ways to get guys into one-on-one spaces, and that's exactly what you need for a quarterback who's just like, hey, I'm just going to be accurate and put it where my guy can go and get the football and allow them to make plays on it. And the thing that everybody hates with Brock Purdy is that we are in a situation where it's like we're trying to forecast him being in a bad spot and have to carry his team like Herbert did last year, where DeAndre Carter was like a number one wide receiver in a game. We don't foresee Brock Purdy being able to do those type of things. Completely understandable, right? But the problem is like he's not in that situation right now. And he is a top 10 quarterback. And it's unfair that he has the best. Who's the best playing the best tight end in football right now? It's George Kittle. Travis Kelce is still the best tight end, but like George Kittle's right there, 1A. That's fine. He does have the best running back in football. He does have at least one top 5 wide receiver. Like the way he's playing right now is what I'm saying. Like
you can say for sure a top 5 receiving core.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think when you watch Brandon Ayuk play right now, like, and you were to say, like, who's playing top 5 football right now and making plays, and it sucks that Devontae Adams is in the situation that he's in right now, and it sucks that Justin Jefferson is injured or like not going to be playing for a minute. But Brandon Ayuk is out there and making crazy great plays. Also, too, like one thing I forgot about the CMC thing, the block downfield, like by Brandon Ayuk on that play, but then you also see like CMC return the favor and get to be the lead block for Deebo Samuels on a play. Like he's like, oh, this guy did it for me to get a big touchdown. Let me go help out my boys in the blocking game. And that's what CMC does. Just a football player.
And that's the kind of stuff that takes like really good teams to the Super Bowl level, is when they're playing for each other like that. You mentioned best running back in football, best tight end in football. Well, you can say is George Kittle creates the most wide open plays for a tight end in football just because of what he can do as a blocker. Like you got to come up and attack him when he's blocking in the run game, but he always can just like release you as a blocker and then run around and then take off the other field. Yeah, the top 5 receiving core, and they probably have the best defense in football too, Tony. So maybe, and you can watch the shows. Go check out the MJT Football YouTube channel. We talked about another video. Joe was saying that he would have a ton of fun if we saw a Dolphins 49ers Super Bowl. And, it's starting to look like there's a shot that the Niners at least have a good chance to make it the distance. But that's our top 5 MVP candidates, everybody. I'll go over mine one more time before the show goes off. I had Herbert at 5, Tyreek Hill at 4, Josh Allen at 3, TJ Watt at 2, and Christian McCaffrey at 1. Tony, what was yours again?
Honorable mention to TJ Watt. I'm really upset that I left him off. He would have been my chance to leave Patrick Mahomes off. But Patrick Mahomes at number 5, Jared Goff at 4, Tyreek Hill at 3, Jalen Hurts at 2, and CMC at 1.
Let us know yours in the comments, everybody. We appreciate you guys for tuning in to another upload on the MJT Football YouTube channel. We're going to be bringing more of these, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're 3 friends. Well, 2 friends today. We miss you, Joe. We love you, Joe. But we're 3 friends talking football. Looking for a 4th. You could be that 4th by hitting that subscribe button. Also, guys, help us out by liking the video and sharing it with more NFL fans, especially we talked about certain players, certain fans that friends, families, favorite players and teams. It helps out a ton. Tony, anything else before you go? Anything from April? Nothing. She wants us to get off the air so you can go give her some doggy treats. So go do that, Tony. MVP.